Have you ever caught yourself saying yes, even as every cell in your body was screaming no? Maybe it was agreeing to stay late at work when you were already exhausted, or saying yes to a family favor when your soul just wanted to rest. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Today, I want to talk about why those tiny automatic yeses are draining the very peace you're working so hard to create, and how reclaiming the power of your no is the most feminine, freeing thing you can do. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence, Dr. Nicole. I'm going to take you guys way back with this story. I always like to start with the story. And this is back years ago when I was first getting my license as a psychologist, just finished my PhD. And I was in that eager to please mode where I just felt like I had to do it all. I was sitting in my office of a clinic I was working at, already behind on paperwork. I was running on fumes, hadn't eaten a lot. My supervisor walks in and is like, "Hey, Nicole, can you take on this new case? It will be really good for you." They always try to butter you up as if this will be good for you. And before I could even think, I heard my mouth say, "Oh, of course, I'll take care of it." Later that night, I paid the price. I was up until 2 a.m. I was frustrated, depleted, and it was just one more thing on my plate that I had not had planned. Like at that stage, I was studying a lot, I was doing family stuff. I just had a lot on me. And so I was myself very organized. And this last thing thrown on my plate just really threw me for a loop. And here's the thing, no one forced me to. I just automatically said yes. I desperately wanted to say no. And in that moment, I realized my peace wasn't being stolen. I was handing it away. And that's the key. A lot of us think it's someone else doing it. I could have gotten mad at my supervisor, but really I had to realize that it was me handing away my peace. My question is, how many of you or handing away your peace with every yes that you utter? Think about it. There's a whole psychology to this. It's called the psychology of people pleasing. And there's something that's called the yes reflex. It's a habit that's rooted in us wanting approval, us wanting to avoid conflict, us feeling responsible for everyone else's happiness. I actually remember being in this space. I would even change the movies that I wanted to go see or the activities that I wanted to do if I was afraid that the other people in the group wouldn't like it. I was feeling responsible for their happiness. And there's a lot of research to this people pleasing thing that we tend to do, especially as women. One researcher, Harriet Breaker, called this the disease to please. And she has shown, as well as many others, that chronic people pleasers report higher stress and lower life satisfaction. In fact, chronic people pleasing can actually lead to chronic disease. One of my favorite authors ties the research to autoimmune disorders, things like lupus and fibromyalgia, and all of these different disorders where a lot of times it's women are in pain, they're suffering. So much of it comes from the resentment of giving away our power and saying yes. And this high level of chronic disease, this low level of life satisfaction, this is connected to draining our feminine energy. When we say yes just to prove our worth, we're living in our wounded masculine energy. The wounded masculine energy is always doing, achieving, and fixing out of a place of insecurity, not feeling good enough. True feminine power doesn't beg for validation, it receives the validation that is due to it just by being. You hear that? So, wounded masculine energy is always doing, achieving, and fixing from a place of insecurity. And true feminine power is receiving from a place of surety and security and worthiness. Here's something you can do to see where you're giving away your power. The next time you feel pressured to say yes, just stop and ask yourself, am I saying yes out of love or out of fear? Am I saying yes out of feeling secure and worthy or out of feeling unworthy and like I have to prove myself? There's also something called the burnout connection. This is where overcommitment equals burnout. One researcher, Christina Maslach, talked about a burnout model where work overload plus lack of control are key triggers to burnout and overwhelm. So, this is where saying yes adds to that work overload and also a sense of not having control because you feel like you have to say yes. This is why it's so important to pause and ask yourself, do you have to say yes? Why you're saying yes? And what are your options? There was this huge 2020 Stress in America survey. And what it found is not surprisingly, women consistently report higher stress than men. And I've said before, I have witnessed it in academic settings, workplaces, where men tend to feel more empowered to say no. This is something that my husband has even reflected to me. He has helped me to have boundaries where to say no, to tell friends I can't do it, and to stand my ground. For women, the feeling that we can't say no is often rooted in how we've been socialized, the fact that we have multiple roles and responsibility, and we fuse them all together. We feel like that feminine energy is responsible for everyone else, but that's the wounded feminine energy. A lot of times, also, we have been socialized that we just need to get validation and people please. So we have to really re socialize ourselves to stand in our feminine power, have healthy boundaries, and pause before we give away our power. I have worked with so many clients that have had this. It's not just one story. I can give you a compilation where it's the woman who is saying yes at work and at home. She's in all the PTA meetings, she's baking the cookies, she's volunteering to be the parent class representative. She is caregiving. She is doing projects, but she's running behind. So there's a sense that she has this running to do list and no time for herself. When you talk to her about self care, she even gets angry because she's like, where would it fit in these 24 hours that are not even enough? And many of these women have broken down in tears in my office. They've said things like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I used to love self care and taking care of myself. I don't see where it could fit in. And this is the thing that really hurt the most when I would hear women say it. After all of this, I don't even feel appreciated. It feels like the more I do, the less I'm valued. And ladies, this is absolutely true. You do not make yourself more valued by doing more. That's why it's important to do an energy audit. This is where you write down, sometimes we have to take pen to paper and you write down everything you said yes to last week. You could pick a time period, but I think a week is a great period. Write down everything you said yes to, circle the ones that felt heavy, resentful, or misaligned. And that is where your peace is leaking. It's like a slow leak. And so until you identify the source of it, you can't really stop it up. You'll begin to see a pattern in these things that seem heavy, where you're resentful or where it feels misaligned. And this is where you can start plugging in the leaks. Guess what? By saying no more. Let's talk about why no is actually a feminine power move. We need to reframe what no is. Sometimes we think of it as something where we are starting conflict, we're letting people down, we're not being a good woman or a good nurturer. Those things are absolutely false. We need to reframe no as self respect. And nothing is more feminine or worthy of a woman than self respect. I love the author and researcher Brene Brown, and she reminds us that clear is kind. Think about that. The more fuzzy and maybe and we're on this side of the fence and that side of the fence, that is not kind. It's actually confusing the people in our lives. And I remember one time I had to check myself on this because my daughter, and as kids get into the preteens and teens years, they need boundaries. A lot of times they will ask you for things and they want you to say no, right? They feel sometimes pressure and they can get relief if they tell their friends, you know what? No, my mom said no. But when you're unclear and you don't give boundaries and you're like, well, maybe you can stay up a little bit later, you're not being clear with them and you're not giving them the boundaries that they need and that they desire. And I remember one time my daughter was like, Mom, just give it to me straight. I forgot what the thing was that she was asking, but she just wanted a clear answer, even if that answer was no. She wasn't necessarily looking for a yes, she was looking for clarity. So you have to remember that boundaries aren't rejection, they're actually instructions for connection. They let people know how you want them to connect to you. It actually is like giving them instructions. Imagine trying to put together some furniture. Now, for my IKEA fans, you will relate to this. IKEA is notorious for having a bunch of parts and things like that, but the instructions are what show us how to put it together. It's the same with relationships. If you don't have boundaries, people don't know how to connect with you. You get mad, you're not clear, they don't know if you are saying yes because you want to, you blow up. It lack of boundaries just results in really confusing relationships as well as a really stressful emotional state for the person who doesn't have the boundaries. There is something called decision fatigue, and it is real. There's some research on it. Every unnecessary yes drains your creativity and emotional bandwidth. It's almost as if when you're just saying yes, it feels like it's an easy decision in the moment. So, in the moment, you don't feel fatigued, but the follow up that comes from it is where the decision fatigue comes in. That's why you need a plan. You need to know what is your capacity, what is your bandwidth, what things are aligned with you. So, in that example I gave where my supervisor came in and asked if I could take on another case, the best thing for me to do would have been ahead of time to have a clear sense of how many hours I could commit, how many clients I could see, what was my bandwidth, how many difficult, how many cases I was already carrying, so that when someone just jumped in with this request, I could pause and say, you know what? Let me look at my calendar and let you know. In the moment, it takes a little extra time because I'm not automatically saying yes, but it saves me all the other energy that comes with that decision to say yes when I really wanted to say no. Here's a feminine energy perspective. If we think about it, masculine energy thrives on doing. Feminine energy thrives on being, receiving, and allowing. So every no is an invitation to actually draw in more support, more intimacy, and more softness. And it's funny because we would think that the yes draws that in. But when we say no, we give people an opportunity to pause and say, they get to think about us and what we need and what's going on with us. They get a chance to move towards us to help or to connect or to see us in a vulnerable place. Those who really care about us will actually welcome our boundaries. It'll make things clear and it will actually put them in a position to be able to help us. Here's the thing, a lot of us women who are in our wounded masculine, we don't realize that there are people who actually want to help us. If I think back to that supervisor who asked me to take on this case, part of it is like she needed me to take the case. Part of it was probably that she thought I would want to because I would want more experience. And it was all mixed together. But if I had said, you know what, let me think about it. I don't know. I already have a lot of things. I'm behind on my paperwork. That would have actually given her a chance as a supervisor to help support me. And so by saying yes, I robbed her of that opportunity, but I also robbed myself of my feminine power to allow people to support me and to allow myself to receive that help. So I want you to think about this. There's something called the pause, pivot, protect framework. I love this. Number one is pause. You know, the pause is so powerful. Don't answer right away. Take a breath. If it's a text message, don't respond right away. I don't care if they saw that you read it or it's a social media inbox. Just pause. The second step is to pivot and say, you know what, let me think about that and get back to you. I found this with students and teaching that a lot of times people will just automatically email you questions and they haven't even thought about the fact that they may have the answer or have access to the answer. And a lot of times I used to respond right away, oh, look on the syllabus, or go do this, or I would give the answer. But then I started to pause, and lo and behold, many times 5, 10, 15 minutes later, the person would write back and say, you know what? Never mind. I actually found it myself. So when you pause and then you pivot and say, you know what? Let me think about that and get back to you. Sometimes the person will find their own solution, or they'll say, you know what? I probably don't even need that. Go ahead and rest. Or they will rethink what they're asking you. And the third thing is to protect. So if after you pause, after you say, let me get back to you, it may just be a no. And if it's a no, you can use a soft no. I have no problem with it, right? You can say something like, I can't take that on right now, but thanks for asking. You're appreciating the person because not everybody is there to just dump on you. But you can say, you know what? It's not for me. You're not focusing on why did you ask me this and being mad at the person. You're focusing on your capacity and what's aligned with you. All right, so let's make this a little more practical. I have some Q&A. I love the Q&A, and I'm going to answer these questions and it's like we're in a coaching session together. So the first question is, what if I say no and people get mad at me? This is the number one fear that we tend to have as women. But here's the truth. People's initial disappointment is temporary. What lasts longer is our resentment from overcommitting and taking on too much. Boundaries are actually what teach other people how to treat you. So if someone is consistently getting mad and punishing you for saying no, you need to reevaluate if this relationship is even worth it because they are clearly showing they don't respect you or what you need. All right. So people will get mad, but think about it. Their madness or disappointment is temporary. Your resentment is usually long lasting. All right. Great question. Number two is, how do I say no without sounding rude or ungrateful? You can simply just alter your tone. Tone is everything. So a soft no can sound something like, thank you so much for thinking of me, but I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. That is not within my goals right now. I'm working on some other things. I won't be able to fit that in. You just say it with a nice tone, you thank them, and you keep it moving. The key is to stick to your guns or stand on business, as they say. Don't back down. You can say it with a smile, but make sure you stick to that no. Question number three is, I've been a people pleaser my whole life. Where do I even start? You might feel like, you know what? I'm an adult now. How can I even shift this? The key is to start small. You pick one low stakes area this week. You start now. Maybe it's declining a group text outing or not volunteering for that extra project or coming back and saying, you know what, I wanted to be a team player, but as I look at my schedule, I just can't do it. You need to practice the soft no and notice that the world doesn't fall apart. The PTA still keeps going, the people still go on their group chat outing. Things will continue. You saying no doesn't disempower others, it only empowers you. All right. And this last question, I love it. It's getting into the relationship realm. She says, how can I say no in dating without pushing men away? This is a juicy one because saying no early on actually builds respect. Men, especially healthy, masculine, secure men, respect women who respect themselves. A graceful no, such as, no, I'm not comfortable with that, but here's what would feel good to me, that can go a long way and it sets the tone for healthy intimacy and masculine leadership. You're saying, you know what, I acknowledge you, but I don't want to go there or I don't want to do that, right? You need to tweak it to fit your needs, but you need to get okay with saying no, especially early on. Here's a list of phrases that you can use with family members at work and in relationships. Things like, that doesn't work for me, but I appreciate the invite. Hey, I'm at capacity right now. I'd love to support in another way, but I can't commit to that. So you could do role plays. You can figure out how to say these at work, to family members, if you're dating or in a relationship. And as far as relationships, when a man asks you to compromise your peace early on, a graceful no actually builds his respect because it shows that you respect yourself. Either he will respect it or he will move on. Either way, it's a win for you. I remember when we first got married, my husband used to say, I don't want a yes man, meaning he wanted to hear my voice, what I had to say, my opinions. So, boundaries are actually going to make your relationship better. I encourage journaling to help with this. You can simply answer this question in your journal. Where in my life am I saying yes to avoid guilt instead of yes because I desire it? Think about that. And wherever you're doing that, cut that out and replace that with yeses because you desire it and nos because you want to have healthy boundaries. Here's what I want you to remember: every yes is an investment. You're either investing in resentment or in peace. Let me say that again. You are investing in one of two things. You're either investing in resentment or you're investing in peace. When you honor your no, you make space for your most powerful yes. And that is yes to things like joy, like rest, like your femininity, and the relationships that truly nourish you and value you. Let us start a revolution, a movement of no's. I always say that no is the new yes. Every time you say no to something, you're leaving room for more things to say yes to. If today's episode spoke to you, make sure you share it with another woman that you know needs to be part of this movement. A woman who needs the reminder that saying no is the best way to reclaim her feminine power. If you're ready to go deeper, make sure you grab a copy of my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint, for women who are finally ready to win at love, or come join us inside the Boundaries to Bliss Society, my inner circle where we practice these shifts together as a community with other women who are tapping into their femininity, having fulfilling relationships, and having healthy boundaries. And remember, sis, a powerful no is the most feminine yes you will ever give yourself. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you in the next episode. I'm Dr. Nicole.